Welcome back to the Automation Podcast, the world's number one industrial automation product and technology show. Thanks to you, our audience of highly skilled automation professionals. Thank you for being a member of our audience and thank you for tuning back in this week. Now, for those who are new to the show, my name is Shawn of Insights in Automation, and each week I invite a new vendor to come on the show to tell us about their products and technologies. And during their presentation, I play the role of the audience and I ask questions I think you may have, and also some questions I have too. Now, given that a quarter of our audience listens to the show, I'll also try to call attention to any details in the visuals that I think you listen-only folks will want to know about. Now, with that said, this week I want to welcome to the show for the first time, Matt from AMCI. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on. I haven't taken a look at your products in a while, but used them a lot early in my career. So I am really looking forward to finding out what's new and exciting with your product line. But before we get into your presentation, Matt, could you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. And first off, I would say thank you, Shawn, for having me and inviting me on today. I'm looking forward to it. My name is Matt Tellier, and I am the sales manager here at AMCI. In my current role, I support customers and our sales reps as a sales manager would. But my previous roles here at AMCI had me as the applications engineer and also the motion products manager. So my knowledge of our product, and specifically our motion products, that knowledge runs wide and deep. So happy to answer any questions you have today regarding our motion products.
But before we jump in, I want to thank theautomationschool.com for sponsoring this episode of the show. That's where you'll find all of my online courses on Allen Bradley and Siemens PLCs and HMIs. So if you know anybody who needs to get up to speed on those products, please mention theautomationschool.com to them. And now let's jump back into the show.
With that said, jump right into our presentation. Today's presentation is going to be our motion product overview. AMCI makes a wide range of products. Part of it is a position sensing type products, and some of it is motion control. And today we will be focusing it on motion control. So just to kind of give you a brief overview of what today's presentation will cover, I'll give you a brief introduction into who AMCI is and a little bit about our history, with a focus on motion control products, as I stated earlier. We'll run through some common applications that the audience might be familiar with as far as where these types of products have been used and can be used, as well as a couple of recent successes to give people an idea of the thought process and how we went about selecting AMCI products for those applications. And then kind of closing it out with a why AMCI. There are a lot of products in the market, as we are all aware of, that do a lot of different things. And we feel like AMCI offers something different that other companies can't offer, and that's why you should choose AMCI. So AMCI, to start with, has over 35 years of manufacturing history with PLC-based controls. And we kind of evolved very quickly as a company. We started in 1985 making what I just described as simple little black boxes that took a resolver signal, decoded it, and it went to a PLC through a simple PLC input module. And then in early 1988, we released our very first PLC direct plug-in module, and that was for a Rockwell Automation, or at the time, Allen Bradley PLC. And then in the early 90s, along with our position sensing focus, we started developing products for motion control. And in 1994, we released our very first PLC-based stepper controller. In the 90s, we saw a lot of growth with different PLC brands, Rockwell Automation, GE, Siemens, and some Modicon PLCs. And then in the early 2000s, as industrial networks came into play, we developed our very first product that sat on an industrial network in 2000, and that was for ControlNet. So you can kind of see how AMCI is transitioning from a simple plug-in module company to a network-based solutions company. And around that same time, we started developing integrated motion products. That was one where you took, think of a traditional motion system where the three independent components, a drive, control, and motor, and taking two or three of those components and combining them into one product. That started in the early 2000s as well. Our customer focus is, and always has been, PLC-based customers. And all of our design and manufacturing is done here in the USA.
But before we get into that, I wanted to thank those of you who signed up in our new membership program, either on YouTube or at theautomationblog.com. In appreciation of your support, you get exclusive access to the videos of episodes that are not sponsored by the vendor. Now, to learn more about our membership program, which is only $10 a month, please visit theautomationblog.com/memberships. And with that, let's go ahead and jump back into this week's episode. I want to jump in here. Some of you may be thinking, especially if you're younger, why ControlNet in the year 2000? Well, as far as Rockwell was concerned, the Ethernet module that came out for ControlLogix back then was not for I/O. It didn't support I/O. There was no really, the old 1756 ENET, Series A. I don't even think it can. I think you can upgrade the Series B to do that later, as the years went on. But ControlNet was Rockwell's main high-speed, aside from DeviceNet. ControlNet was for like high throughput, lots of data. And so that may answer that question if any of you are asking that. And let me turn it back to you, Matt.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so our design focus has been for the last 15 years on those integrated motion products that I mentioned. And it really all starts with the PLC when it comes to that design focus. As I said, we are a PLC-based focused company. So for our products to work, they need some sort of PLC to send the commands, to receive the commands, and to receive input data for status and things of that nature. So as I said, it all starts with the PLC. And all of AMCI's integrated motion products work with a wide range of network protocols. So your traditional Ethernet IPs, your Profibus, Modbus TCP, Profinet, and we even have some products that work with EtherCAT. So we're not beholden to one particular PLC manufacturer, which we would be if we made a direct plug-in module. So there's some logic behind that, because now the customer, they're not beholden to a design that has a particular brand PLC. They can use the same product in multiple different systems depending upon their needs. And because of the network integration, they are also well suited for legacy installations. Think about, I'm doing a system upgrade and I'm trying to automate some portion of the machine that is now manually operated. Well, in the past, I would need to have rack space. I would need to have panel space to do that. With an integrated product, all I need is somewhere to plug in a network cable, and I now have an axis of motion. So I don't need that panel space. So great use of expansion through the network. Setup and programming is done within the native PLC environment, so there's no third-party language to use. If you're using Rockwell PLCs, it would be done with Studio 5000 or RS Logix 500 or connected components. If it's Siemens TIA portable, even right now with IDEC, we're working on some tools for their Wind LDR software where you'll be able to use these devices in the IDEC PLC as well. So wide use of PLC brands. And really, the strength of that is it allows us to leverage the customer's existing knowledge base. You already know how to program your PLC. There's no reason for you to have to learn another third-party motion programming. Plug the device in, use your PLC code as you see fit, and have that axis of motion. So what are the types of integrated products that we offer? It's really up to you on what you feel like is the best path for your solution. For older solutions where maybe you have a simple step and direction type drive, whether it's a stepper drive or a servo drive, we offer motion controllers, and those motion controllers would output a step and direction signal to control that drive. You may have a linear actuator or an existing motor in place that has a stepper motor. And in that case, one of our integrated driving controls would make more sense, because now we're taking advantage of that combination of components. When we're starting with a clean sheet of paper, the integrated 3-in-1 motors are often the best fit, whether it's an integrated stepper or an integrated servo. really the main focus and the reason why all of these products work well together, and it all begins and ends with that PLC network connection. So a little bit deeper dive into what each product type is like. For the integrated motion controller, as I said, it's just a simple step and direction control. You send it a command type, whether it's a relative move, absolute move. You can do a little bit more sophisticated motion like registration commands, assembled moves, so to speak. But it's all there to simplify that interface to a newer PLC to that existing and maybe legacy drive that you have in place. It works great with standalone stepper drives and servo drives. There's going to be some servo drives out there that will take a step and direction signal for control. Good way to control those is with these types of devices. So digging into the more integrated type solutions, the first being the stepper drive and controller, really the design focus here is getting the customer and getting you to think about how do we reduce the number of components in our system. Well, let's move away from a solution where we have a controller, whether it's a standalone controller, whether it's a PLC-based controller, and a standalone drive. Combine them into one component. That helps eliminate control cabling from the controller to the drive. It might help also reduce the distance in which we need to run sensor cables, because the sensors can now run back directly to that drive, and the sensor information can be then run directly to the PLC through the network connection. We offer both AC powered and DC powered solutions. So depending upon what's available to you for power and what your needs are relative to speed and torque, you can select the drive that best fits your needs. And they're a very flexible drive. They will work with any two-phase stepper motor. So you're not beholden to a particular brand or a couple of different brands of steppers. As long as it's a two-phase stepping motor, these drives will work with it. And they are really a great choice when integrating with third-party actuators. Some of the more common brands out there would be SMC or Nook, but I can think of like Festo, Unimotion, where you may get a linear actuator that already has a motor on it, and you're trying to figure out how do I integrate that easily into my PLC. These drives are a great solution there. And really, getting into the stars, as I like to call it, of the product offering is going to be our 3-in-1 integrated motor products. The first being our integrated stepper motor, which released, it's hard to believe, but probably certainly over 10 years ago. 3-in-1 integrated stepper motor, where it's the motor, the drive, and control all in one package. So send me 24 volts and an Ethernet connection, and you have a full axis of motion. We have a very wide range of motors to choose from, anything from as small as a NEMA 17 motor all the way up to a 3-stack NEMA 34. So your torque ranges there, vary anywhere from 80 ounce inches all the way up to 1100 ounce inches. So wide range of motors, and certainly a wide range of applications that they can tackle.
Now, Matt, I want to ask you, so this sounds great. So I have a PLC. I put this connected to this device on Ethernet, but there has to be something in the PLC I have to do to interface with your device, right? And how do I do that? Like, let's just say for the common PLCs, like either Allen Bradley or Siemens or others, what do you give me that makes it available so I don't have to go and start doing bits and bytes?
Sure. So AMCI has gone to great lengths to make the integration as easy and simple as possible, and then try and make it look as familiar as to what you're already using. So for Ethernet IP users, we've created an EDS file, and that would work with your Rockwell PLC, your IDEC PLCs, your Unitronics PLCs, and we've had some people use it with Mitsubishi. And along with that, we've created sample code. And specifically for Rockwell Automation, that would include add-on instructions. And for Siemens and Profinet, that would be GSDML files and function blocks. So you go to amci.com, you download those support tools, import them into your PLC program, and you're ready to go. And the great thing about those utilities, such as the EDS and the GSML file, is when I now add that device to my PLC program, all of the input and output tags, instead of being just, as you said, bits and bytes and words, it now says specifically what that function is.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to jump in here and pay some bills. Thank you, first of all, for listening to this episode. And while today's vendor wasn't able to sponsor this episode, I still wanted to invest the time to bring it to you because I think you're like me. You like to learn about new products and technologies. So with all that said, I'd like to ask you to consider becoming a member for just $10 a month, either on YouTube or at theautomationblog.com, to help me offset the cost of producing these episodes each week. In exchange for your membership, you will receive member-only perks, including access to my daily news show and ad-free editions of every unsponsored episode of this show. With that said, thanks again for tuning in this week, and now we'll return you to this week's episode.
So it'll say, this is my encoder position. This is my motor position when it comes to status. It will also say things like my motor is moving, my motor is stopped, things of that nature. And they're directly named tags. My output registers would say, what is my motor speed? What is my motor distance? Things of that nature, instead of just saying word 2, word 3. And the nice thing too with specifically with EDS files is, along with the tag structure, you can actually import a default configuration file. So instead of having to bounce between a configuration mode and command mode when I'm programming these things, I now have config tags that are already pre-programmed, and I open up basically just a pull-down menu, and I can see what each bit function is doing. I can enter in if I want to change things like motor current, things of that nature can all be done and set up through those custom tables through the EDS and similar tools in the GSDML file.
That's awesome. I think if any of the listeners who also watch the morning show, we discovered back in, I think it was December, that AMCI had updated a whole suite of add-on instructions on the download section of Rockwell's website, the sample code section. So if you have AMCI, of course, their website is probably the best place to go, but they also have official add-on instructions in the download section on Rockwell's website. And I thought that was really cool. So I know the customers really appreciate that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and just to kind of finish up a little bit about the specifications, one of the things that's great when you start combining everything all in one, you can start adding features that were a little less common on stepper motors. So these units default have an encoder. Incremental encoder is a standard encoder, so it gives you things like stall detection and move verification, which historically didn't have with steppers. And we were one of the first, if not the first, to innovate and include a multi-turn absolute encoder on here. So now, traditionally in the past, when you ran a stepper open loop, you power down, you power back up, you didn't know where you were. With the addition of the multi-turn absolute encoder, I now know where I am when I power back up. Even if it moves without power, I can monitor that position change, power back up, preset my position to the absolute encoder, and I'm back up and running, eliminating the need for homing. And another thing where we think we kind of separate ourselves from companies doing similar things is the way we mechanically design these devices is they're designed for any environment. The standard units are IP60, but we have also offer IP64, which gives you seals at every junction plus a shaft seal. So for things like high pressure washdowns, they're a great offering. And we can even do an IP67, which gives us a stainless steel coating for those customers and users looking for that stainless steel coating for things like food and beverage applications, or something where there's caustics in the environment that might damage a traditional or standard motor casing. So the last one I'm going to talk about here in the integrated product line is going to be our 3-in-1 integrated servo. Just like the stepper motor, it's all three components in one device. Unlike what you're used to in servos, these are DC powered solutions, powered anywhere from 24 to 80 volts DC. They come in two different power ratings at the moment, 160 and 400 watt. And just like with the steppers, all the same tools that we talked about with the 3-in-1 stepper are also available to you with the integrated servos. They're a great alternative for customers looking at lower cost alternatives to a more traditional servo system with maybe a drive and a motor out on a machine where I'm running a separate encoder cable, separate motor cable. As you know, sometimes the drive and motor costs, maybe they look a little bit affordable, but when I add 70 feet of motor cable and encoder cable, costs add up pretty quickly. With this device, it's a simple power cable and an Ethernet cable. So really helps drive down the overall system cost. And one of the features that we have added recently to this device is, and really it's actually in all of our motion products now, is the ability to be programmed to follow a virtual axis. So for our Rockwell Automation users, you're thinking about Motion Planner. Now, how can I use this device using those similar programming functions that I'm used to in Motion Planner? Well, you can set up a virtual axis in Motion Planner, program this device to say, follow this particular axis, and you're off and running, which allows it to do a lot of things that you can't do with traditional steppers or servos outside of the Rockwell environment, such as camming functions, change speeds continuously. So it's a very, very versatile feature, and we have a lot of people taking advantage of it. So what sets us apart from other people making these products, as we've been talking about? The first is going to be the dual port Ethernet. It gives it a very flexible network structure, so I can do a traditional star topology. I can do a linear network, so I can run the network connection to one AMCI device and just daisy chain them all together, which also helps overall costs by reducing the number of network connections back to a switch or a hub. And you can also do for Rockwell Automation and for Siemens, you can do redundant network technology. That the DLR to mention one of them. So you can have then test that network integration for another level of safety on the network. As I mentioned, we have the custom EDS and GSDML files that you can import into your PLC program to make setup easy. And we've created them so they have a similar programming structure amongst the entire product line. So if I've used, say, an integrated stepper drive and controller for a project, and now I want to use an integrated servo, you will see that we've created those add-on instructions and those function blocks to be the same for each product. So there's no new learning. I can just bounce from one product to the other, and everything works together. They're tested with a wide range of PLC brands. I've mentioned them already, but I'll just reiterate them for memory. Rockwell Automation, Siemens, some of the major players, Modicon PLCs, Mitsubishi, IDEC, Unitronics, Omron. So if you've got a PLC with a network on it, chances are we have a product that will work with it. And we do, as I said, have sample programs available for download from our website at amci.com. So who can benefit from these types of products? Well, target customers and target applications would simply be, packaging applications, automotive applications, material handling, anything where I have a conveyor and I've got setup axes, great use of these types of products. Food and beverage because of the IP67 rating. Systems integrators trying to do things, and end users trying to do things like upgrading, adding automation, things of that nature, where that network connection gives them the additional ability to add an axis of motion. Those are the types of applications and customers that can benefit from these products. Some of the things we like to focus on are those applications that are PLC-based controlled, because as I said, these are not standalone devices. They do require a PLC for communication. Sometimes if you're looking to simplify the motion control, you don't need the sophistication of a full-blown servo. Let's take a look at applications where an integrated solution might be a better choice. Trying to automate manual operations, reducing cabinet space, replacing pneumatics, and those that are budget conscious. These are all the people that can benefit from these types of products. So to list a little bit deeper into what those applications would be, one of the most common applications we do is going to be edge guide adjustment for conveyors. It's nice if some of those simpler devices where it's just maybe one motion to two different places, position A, position B, those will do the job. But if you need something where, depending upon the product I'm running, I need to adjust those edge guides, and I have multiple products, well, those might be positioned in multiple locations. Well, now I need that PLC integration to make that adjustment possible. That's where these types of products shine. Pick and place applications, automated assembly. We've done some things as fascinating as bacon slicers, believe it or not, for baked beans, parts bin agitation, vision system adjustments, you name it. If there's axis of motion, the AMCI product has probably been used in that application.
Hey guys, Shawn jumping back in here to let you know about one of the new services I'm offering from my new downtown office. In addition to custom in-person training and virtual training, I'm also now offering one-on-one mentoring. This is a service that grew out of my online courses at theautomationschool.com, driven by students who completed my courses, were competent in their jobs, but then they would run into difficult or confusing applications, and they wanted to hire me to sit with them virtually and review their projects, review their code, and ask questions. And I got to tell you, it's gone really well with the students I've done this with, and so now I'm releasing it to the public. If you want to know more, please use the contact link at either theautomationschool.com or theautomationblog.com. Now, another service I'm offering is the result of vendors and users coming to me and saying, Shawn, you got all that equipment in your studio. Could you test this for me? Or could you set up my computer and make sure it communicates to all those devices? And so I'm also offering PC configuration and application testing right here in my downtown office. So if you're interested in that, you can use the same two contact links to get in touch with me. And with that, that's all I have right now. Let's return to this week's episode of the Automation Podcast.
So to dive in even deeper and getting into an application, this first one we're going to talk about here stems from a machine builder that was looking to do some work with the pharmaceutical industry, and they were designing a tabletop metering machine for dispensing anesthesia, filling anesthesia bags, basically. The tabletop design required a compact PLC-based motion control solution per the customer's request. And because of the tabletop design, they didn't want people touching things and having access to them. So all controls had to reside within that simple and small enclosure. So the requirements were compact size, needed to be inexpensive. They were using PLC-based controls, so it needed to integrate to the PLC quickly and easily. And it really needed to offer better value and reliability than other steppers. And in this selection, they took the 3-in-1 integrated stepper motor. The network connectivity and the integrated control was key for the application. As you can imagine, the integrated components really help reduce the number of control modules, the number of components and devices in the panel, which help reduce the size of the enclosure, and which overall helped reduce component cost. And then the ability of the AMCI to provide several hundred units in a small delivery window allowed the custom machines to be delivered on time and on budget. The second one, just wanted to talk a little bit about, was a filling application. In this particular application, a nationally recognized manufacturer of art supplies ran into a problem with a production line improvement. They had selected an electric actuator that was stepper-based and an associated drive control that had RS-485 communication. And it failed due to communication delays. The reason why they went that route was, well, when they were testing the unit with one 485 drive, everything worked fine. But the system had 10 dispensers on it. And once they put 10 drives on there, nothing functioned correctly. The timing was terrible, and the machine just wasn't going to function correctly. So they came to AMCI looking for a solution, and the requirements were it had to integrate into their current control architecture, which in this case was a Rockwell Automation PLC. They had already purchased the linear actuators, and they were hoping to be able to keep those linear actuators and not have to spend even more money replacing those. And because of the high access count, they were concerned about network bandwidth. So they came to us and we decided upon the AMCI integrated drive controller. The Ethernet IP connectivity was really the deciding factor for the solution. The integrated drive eliminated the need for multiple control modules in the PLC, just like it did with the previous application. And unlike serial communication, the Ethernet IP communication was more than capable of managing the network traffic. And the added bonus was the customer had familiarity with other AMCI motion products, so they were able to get the programming done in a day, which made it
Nice.
very quick and easy. So the drive flexibility with motor compatibility, that was really what sealed the deal for the customer. So to close out today's discussion, just kind of wanted to say, why AMCI? Well, AMCI has advantages others cannot match. All of AMCI's products are designed with the PLC as the heart of the solution. We start our development thinking about how are these going to be programmed, how they're going to be developed with the PLC ladder logic in mind. So we're thinking of how you want to use it when we're designing it. The data structure is similar amongst all controller products. So if I've used one AMCI device, I can understand and know how to use them all. So repeat learning. Let's use it once and use it again. And there are no third-party programming languages that you need to learn. Again, you know how to program it in your PLC. Let's use that knowledge that you already have. And because we do all of our engineering and manufacturing here at AMCI, that means there's no offshoring of production or engineering. So if you have questions about a particular function, how does this device work? Maybe we got to get into the weeds when it comes to troubleshooting. Our engineers are right here in the building. We can go and ask them if it's something I haven't seen before. We have control over production. We need to get something out the door fast. We can go out into production and make that happen. So we have complete control of quality and delivery. And tech support and application support is done using factory personnel. We don't outsource that. So when you call AMCI looking for information, having questions about applications or tech support, we're here to help. So that does it for me for today's presentation. I thank you, Shawn, and I thank the audience for listening. And Shawn, if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them right now.
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, I can definitely see the all-in-ones, stepper and servo, being very popular with the Ethernet connectivity, supporting multiple controllers. All looks really awesome. But still having the standalone drive. So in that situation where they already had the motors, right? And they're like, we just got to get rid of this 485. You were able to put your drives in there, talk to the Allen Bradley, talk to the existing hardware, and you don't require them to use everything doesn't have to be AMCI. You can interface with other products, which I thought was huge. So, yeah, that all makes a lot of sense to me. I guess, a couple of questions I have. First of all, that probably the most important question. If somebody is listening or watching and they're like, oh, I want to contact somebody. I have an application right away. I need to talk to somebody about. Where should they go? What's their first step and do you have a sales line at amci.com? What should be somebody's first step?
So there's a couple of ways to reach out to AMCI. First and foremost, pretty much, www.amci.com is a great resource to get all of that information. But if you're just looking for a quick hit, sales at AMCI would be a great start to get things like pricing information, availability information. If you have questions about an application you're working on and you're going, hey, I need someone to kind of help me select what product that I would like to use, applications at amci.com would be the person to reach out to. And if it's product that you already have and you just have some questions like, how do I integrate this into my PLC? What is this programming AOI doing, or this GSDML file? How does this work? Tech support at AMCI is the correct resource. But we also have on our website, if you don't want to send an email, we have a chat where you can reach out to either applications or sales. There's a phone number available, so you can call in. So depending upon your method of contact of choice, you can reach out to AMCI.
That's awesome. The other question I have is just give us a preview of maybe another, like maybe you're coming back on the show. Aside from these products, could you just kind of run down what else you make Just
Sure.
not without any slides, just really quickly, because I mean, this all seems like your bread and butter from like my history with your company. But what else are you guys doing these days?
Sure. So, as I said, we started out doing PLC plugin modules, and
Hmm.
those were going to be your traditional sensor interfaces for things like resolvers,
Okay.
for encoders, linear sensors, things of that nature. So, we've done a lot of things where we've taken a lot of that traditional learning and done the same things that we're doing with the motion stuff and saying, hey, we have all these great products that plug into a PLC. Why make them sit only in one PLC rack when we can take them out of the rack, put a network connection in them, and now everybody can use them. So now we have resolver interfaces for the wide range of PLCs that we've already talked about,
Hmm.
SSI encoder interfaces, motion controllers, and then we've also taken some of that learning that we did with the PLC modules and resolvers and going, okay, everyone likes the resolver. It's a very durable sensor. It works in so many applications. And we hear about people complaining about, we've been using traditional encoders and they don't seem to hold up. So there's this kind of like transition application where, a standard off the shelf encoder doesn't really hold up, but I don't need all of that durability, or I'm not looking to spend all that money on a full blown resolver to resolver interface application.
Hmm.
We have resolver based encoders. So
Oh.
with your traditional encoder outputs, with a network interface. So, mimicking the same thing as you think about a traditional optical or magnetic encoder, but instead of being that type of sensor internally, it's a resolver. Outputs are the same, functionally very different internally,
Hmm.
but it makes them much more durable. We can work in higher temperature applications, higher shock and vibration applications. So that's kind of the stuff that we've been focusing on. Some of the things that, not nichey, but stuff where if you've got an application where, oh god, I'm changing this dang encoder out every 6 months,
Hmm.
AMCI probably has a solution for you.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for giving us a kind of rounding out the line for us there
Mhm.
as well. Guys, it's amci.com. And, if you guys are interested, get in touch with them, send them an email, visit their website. And Matthew, I just want to thank you again for coming on the show and bringing us up to speed on your products.
Yeah, yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone's attention today. I know we all have busy schedules, and to carve out a half an hour to listen to me talk is greatly appreciated.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I know I did. I enjoyed getting back up to speed on AMCI and those product lines. Now, if you did enjoy this episode, though, please do me a favor. Please give me a like, a sub, and a share. That really helps broaden the audience and find us new vendors to come on the show. Also, I want to thank our members for sponsoring this episode along with theautomationschool.com. If you want to know more about becoming a member, click the join link either on our YouTube channel or at theautomationblog.com. And if you know anybody looking for PLC HMI or a SCADA training, please send them over to my website, theautomationschool.com. With that said, I want to thank you all for listening. I want to wish you an awesome week. Stay happy, stay healthy, and until next time, my friends, peace.